Hey everybody. I'm here actually speaking on behalf of Lumera. Originally, it was supposed to be Anthony, the founder of Lumera Protocol, but unfortunately, he had some personal emergencies and he wasn't able to attend. So, my name is Vincent. I lead growth at Lumera Protocol, and we are basically building layer 1 on Cosmos, and it's focused on decentralized AI as well as decentralized permanent storage solution for Web3. So, what is Lumera Protocol, first of all? We are, as I mentioned earlier, focused on the decentralized permanent storage, which I think is more and more prevalent, as we've all seen what's been happening on the news recently with AWS going down. Integrated AI solutions across Web3, and then making sure that everything is chain-agnostic. So interoperable, not only within Cosmos, but within the broader ecosystem of the EVM ecosystem and as well as Solana. And so it's very much designed for developers, users, and we also have a very unique system of supernodes on top of our validators to power all of these different services. And so right now, some of the challenges that we're facing is that there's a lot of computational demand for AI. Every business is integrating into it. All these businesses are becoming more operationally efficient with the usage of AI, and then as well as storage being unreliable within decentralized services, having outages from time to time, and with IPFS, I think some of you may have utilized it within Web3, and the frustrations of dealing with pinning and repinning and all of those things. And so that's where we come in, building Lumera Protocol on Cosmos. And so we have our Cascade, which is our distributed storage layer that guarantees unmatched data redundancy, permanence, and availability. We have AI solutions and LLM services integrated, and so we will also have AI-driven apps, dApps on top of our chain, but ultimately also allowing anybody building on any network to utilize our services through open APIs. And so this is basically how we plan to bridge the different gaps within Web3. And so for us, we're very much focused on integrating at the protocol layer with other infrastructure solutions, and as well as the many different use cases, whether it be DeFi, whether it be NFTs, whether it be metaverse, gaming, and all of those things. And so everything that we're building can easily be accessible, where developers can basically pick and choose a la carte service what services they would like to use from our network specifically. Maybe you're only interested in the storage aspect. Maybe you're only interested in the AI aspect. And so Cascade, which is something that we recently launched on our mainnet service, basically provides redundant, permanent storage for the general Web3. And so the main differentiating factor of how Cascade operates is that anytime a file is uploaded onto our network, this file gets actually chunked up into thousands of several shards. And these shards are actually overlapping. And not only that, they are also copied and spread across all of our supernodes in a randomized fashion. So in the case of the typical case, I'm pretty sure some of you have also utilized torrenting services and things like that. You can get stuck on the 99.9% because some computer or node out there on the network holding that last fragment of data is offline. But because of how our services work, the fragmentation and the overlapping nature of these shards and the over-provisioning of these shards on our network, you can at any time request for the file, and it would basically pull all the required shards to rebuild the original file and be able to provide that copy towards you. So the data availability of any file on our network is very, very permanent. Not only that, we also have self-healing properties of the network, because as the nature of blockchain and Web3 is it's a decentralized service. So at any given time, supernode operators can maybe go offline, or maybe they exit the network and things like that. And so what will happen is that the network will recognize certain shards are leaving the network, and because maybe passes a certain threshold, it will begin to rebuild the original file with the existing shards on the network, and then reshard it and redistribute it to the remaining supernodes on the network to ensure that level of permanence and redundancy. And so, some of the things I've talked about earlier with, IPFS, dealing with the pinning, repinning, some of these services are also on a contractual basis, so you have to, think about renewing your contract with these service providers and whatnot, and as well as, Arweave being kind of a little bit more higher barrier to entry for, node operators because, they really kind of benefit node operators that have basically as much as the data set in order to win blocks. And so you can kind of see how we compare towards all these other services, whether it be Arweave, Filecoin, Storj, AWS, and CF. And the next thing that we will be launching on our mainnet will be the inference protocol. And the inference protocol basically enables agentic AI usage on our network. It will also enable researchers that have existing AI models to host their models on our network. And this will enable a marketplace where people can come and freely utilize the models that they wish to try out. And I think one of the main things that some of us maybe take for granted is that a lot of these AI models, in a lot of first world countries, we have access to and privilege to. But there are also a lot of countries out there where some of these models are gated, you don't necessarily have access to, and we want to make sure that we have the ability to provide access to all of these models to everyone around the world. And oftentimes there's also the other aspect of a lot of new models are always propping up, but you're also not really sure if I really want to commit to utilizing this model. And so with our network, basically you can utilize Loom tokens to prompt these, or utilize these AI models, and basically test for yourself whether or not, okay, is this a model actually that suits my needs and my preferences, right? And so all of this kind of synergizes well together with the data that is stored on Cascade as well. And so you can basically utilize the data you own and utilize it in a way of training the data so the model is more has more context of who you are as a person, and as well as everything that you've wanted to use historically to keep in the conversation. And so, as I was mentioning earlier, AI marketplace, great place for model researchers, builders to basically host their models, and of course, anytime anybody uses your model on the network, you will get a percentage of the fees as well as the owner of the model. Another thing is that we also have our Sense protocol, which is more specified towards verification of assets, mainly originally utilized for NFTs, assessing the relative rareness of image assets and providing a level of authenticity for those assets as well. And so, yeah, here we have more that I was referring to of the Sense protocol, very much focused on providing that level of verification for any asset that you are now creating on the network. I think one of the big issues that are propping up within the world when there's all this usage of AI generated content is that how do I know if something is AI generated or whether or not it is a deepfake? And I think this will become more and more of a relevant service going forward into the future. And so, we're building on top of the Cosmos SDK, but I think one thing that makes us really unique is that we have a validator and supernode architecture. So the validators are, responsible for processing all the transactions on the network, keeping the network secure. But the supernode layer is what is responsible for processing all of the Cascade requests, the inference request, and having that very high computational power. And everything, as I mentioned before, can be accessed through open APIs. Super easy for developers to integrate into their applications. And ultimately, we will have, we also have a Lumera hub, which is more of a consumer-facing product that basically allows users to kind of test or utilize Cascade inference in a very direct way, which allows them to kind of really understand what the network is and its capabilities and features. And so, previously we were actually Pastel Network, and we had, made the pivot earlier on this year to move over to Cosmos. And of course, all of you being here at Cosmoverse, I think you all very much understand, the level of support that, the ecosystem gives. But not only that, they're focused on interoperability, which is a very key and critical factor into our ethos and what we believe in. Because at the end of the day, as blockchain, technology adoption grows, it's a general win for everybody. And so supernodes is something that's very unique for us. As I was saying earlier, a lot of these capabilities on our network and services are very much powered by our supernodes. And supernode operators actually get 98% of the service rewards. 2% of it will go to the foundation, where we then utilize those funds to basically grow the ecosystem and do a lot of community initiatives in order to further the usage and growth of Lumera. So, a lot of these things we've actually built already while we're on Pastel Network, but we're just simply transitioning all onto Cosmos. We're really excited to be a new layer 1 within this ecosystem. We announced our mainnet this past September, and we are in the process of also getting listed and doing a lot of integrations. Our community is growing very rapidly. Originally, we had around 15,000 followers. We're currently close to 70. And we expect it to hit over 100,000 by the end of this year. And so the token itself, is the foundation of the network, paying and utilizing for all of these services, keeping the network secure through staking. And essentially, how all of this this flywheel works is that, as we integrate with more and more partners within the ecosystem and the broader ecosystem of Web3, we end up getting more end users, and therefore, a lot of the partners will process a lot of those transactions on our network, utilizing our services. And as we get more and more throughput, there's more increased protocol revenue, and it all flows back in that way. And so, for us, we are expecting to capture a lot of the data storage in the broader Web3 ecosystem, and all of this data will have a lot of usage that will, very much enrich a lot of these other services. So, for example, whether it's like in DeFi, you can basically archive all of these order book transactions and things like that, so that you can provide a service, or these platforms can essentially provide a service for their users to basically back test and try out different trading strategies. I think the thing about NFTs that people always joke about is when AWS is down, your images or your JPEGs are no longer visible, and I think that will also resolve a lot of those issues. But I also know, right now NFTs are not necessarily the most heavily focused, thing in Web3. And yeah, so we're growing our ecosystem very heavily. A lot of different partners. We're continuing to add more and more. And this is our current roadmap. So as I was saying, mainnet launched earlier this year. We have a lot of wallet support, Kepler, Leap. We launched Lumera Hub recently, and we're chasing after a lot of integrations. And so, if you're building on Cosmos or any other ecosystem and you'd love to learn more about our services, please come chat with me. I have a booth outside. And yeah, as we're coming up to the end of this presentation, token supply 250 million Loom. Staking APR around 15%, 20% burn on our tokens for every transaction. And thank you very much. I really appreciate it.